I have always grown up with the military as part of sort of like the natural fiber of my family. My grandfather and all of his brothers were in World War II. My grandfather was a medic. Recently, I have found some of his stories. And what I loved about what I've read is that because he was a medic, he was actually in charge of a lot of POWs. Over my lifetime, when he was still alive, he would give me little gifts that POWs had given to him. And to me, that's just saying what a kind heart he had. And he saved a lot of people from being killed or dying in surgery. And he lived his life that way. And I think when I started the organization, that was sort of, he was the North Star that I had on my mind. How could we emulate what he had done, not only when he was serving, but when he returned? When he came home, and years before I was born, he really got into gardening as a healing mechanism, but also a sustainability, because, he came back from the war. He didn't have a job. He had a family to support, and gardening was a way that they could eat. And it was something that when I was born, it became part of, what we did together. So the idea that, and I was too young at that point to understand that he was using the garden for healing, but he spent hours there. And even as a child, I knew that this was special. I mean, the garden was the size of a football field. I had no idea that my grandmother was an organic farmer until many years later. And as a result of that, actually my mother and my uncle both became interested in gardening and landscape. And my mother became a deputy director for the Luzerne County Conservation District in Pennsylvania under Governor Ed Rendell. So, all of these things, because my grandfather did serve in the military, when he came home, he was very active in the American Legion, in the VFW, in his church. I witnessed him continuing to give back. Growing up in that environment, that's just what you do. My father also was in the Navy. This is kind of funny recently. I said, "Dad, what was your job?" And he said, and my dad was a career banker. He said, "I was an aviation mechanic." And what I learned was my dad always wanted to be a pilot, but he was nearsighted, so he couldn't be. And this was sort of that he enlisted into the Navy, and that's what he did. He made sure that the ejector seats worked. He made sure that there was a liquid oxygen on the planes. It was fascinating to me, and I think it's part of, something that our organization tries to do, which is help people remember who they were in service, what they did, and help everyone else, the civilians, understand that they shouldn't be forgotten.